Hello everybody, how you doing? This is Kinesiology 234, and this presentation is actually an extension of two other presentations, one of which was kind of an overview of the fitness industry, different models, business models, etc. And then the other presentation was just a kind of a brief introduction regarding the business of personal training. Now, this will be an extension of that business of personal training and how an individual, what a schedule looks like, revenue generated looks like, what a typical personal training team breakdown looks like as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this and take a look. When you look at a typical facility, right, when you have a facility that might have like 2,000, maybe 3,000 members, I mentioned this in a lecture the other day, you're not going to have a full 2,000, 3,000 people use a facility every single day of each month. It's really quite the opposite. You look at it and you go, okay, when you're looking at daily usage, and with daily usage out of maybe 2,500 members, if we split the difference here, you might have on a Monday, you'll have 1,100 swipes or 1,100 people check in. Tuesday, 875, Wednesday, 900, Thursday, 850. I mean, it'll be pretty close to consistent, but you see this like kind of downward trend until you get to Saturday. And depending upon the facility, you might have people who, for example, they come in, they get their workouts, and then they get the heck out of town. They're maybe consultants. They fly out and they come back on Thursday night. They get their workout Friday morning, and then they do their conference calls all day. Very typical scenario. With other individuals, they look at like they want to pay penance for the weekend, so they come in on a Monday to burn off all the calories they ate over the weekend, and so that's your biggest day. Also, people just want to get their first workout in for the week and try to get a second one or a third one later on in the week. So you normally see Mondays are, well, one of the busier days. And when you get to Saturday or Sunday, it's much, much less in terms of overall usage compared to Monday. But Saturdays tend to be just a smidge higher because people have that one free day on the weekend they try to get in, and they try to have one day that's rest. And with the breakdown, and you can make this more granular if you want, but if you break this down into three different segments, open until like an 11 a.m. and 11 a.m. to 4, which is kind of the midday shift, and then 4 to close, you'll have a good percentage of your people will come in the mornings, especially on a Saturday or a Sunday. Absolutely. These people want to get in, get done, and take their kids to baseball, get on with their own stuff, go to the Costco, get their shopping done, or they have stuff going on at night with family and friends. And so you'll usually see a very, very high amount of usage on Saturday and Sunday in the mornings and less in the evenings. And same thing as you go through the week. When you get to Friday, you see this kind of drop off, or less and less people use the club on Friday night. You might have people come in, they just kind of hang out, they do their thing on Friday nights, just to decompress from a work week. But usually, most people are out and about and they're trying to decompress in different ways on a Friday night. So you look at that and you go, okay, as a trainer, you start to pick out where the high usage times are and where you're going to probably work the most. Well, it's probably going to be Mondays are going to be front end loading in the week. You're probably going to do Saturdays in the morning, and you probably look at it in terms of 5 a.m. to 11 and 4 p.m. to close. Take your pick with some time in between on either side of the shoulders. So you got to look at this and go, all right, as a trainer, when you start to make out your schedule and your expectation for schedule, this is what you got to base it off of. You got to base it off of that usage, right? Because otherwise, you're just kind of standing around saying, yes, I'll train you, yes, I'll train you, yes, I'll train you, and you're going to be all over the place in terms of your schedule. Now, when you look at 2,500 paying members, right, in a facility, you have maybe on the average of 1,000 will use a facility daily. And we'll just use that for easy numbers. I know it's a little different than what we saw on the previous slide, but I just want to use this for easy math. So if 1,000 people are using a facility, a percentage of them will be Group X only. A percentage of them will be fitness only. They only come in and do cardio equipment and they'll work out on their own. Another percent will be more like a specialty. They'll come in and do tennis only or basketball only, or in the summertime, they'll just go out and chill by the pool and they don't do anything else. They join a club for nothing more than just to hang out by the pool. And then you'll have a percentage of those people who will be active in personal training programs. So now part of this, as somebody who's in the business, you have to look at how you can dip into and tap into each one of these main areas, right? How you can get more people, maybe tennis programming, basketball programming, how you can get into more people from the fitness area, or how you can get into more training sessions and be able to capitalize on people who come in for Group X only. Now, when you look at a facility that's about 100,000 square feet or better, with 2,500 to 3,000 members, you're going to have a budget of about 50 grand a month for personal training, so $50,000, give or take. It might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less, but for simple numbers, here it is. Now, when you look at penetration rate to PT, when you're talking penetration rate, you're not talking like 50% of personal training penetration. I mean, you're talking a lower number, like 5%, 7%. Oh my God, best would be like 10% if you're in one facility that has maybe a lower membership base, but who's very much into personal training, or it's a personal training only facility. You're going to have a higher percentage base. But in general, it's pretty darn low. You'd be surprised by how low that is. So if you look at this and you go, okay, how many people are actually utilizing personal training? 250-ish, 300 at best. And these folks will not be doing personal training all the time. Some people go out of town, some people travel, and they use their packages and personal training packages wisely. So if you further subdivide this down in terms of personal training, and you look at this, here's one way you can do it. All right, clients might use their sessions 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3, 4, 5. I've had clients who have done 5 days a week with me. Oh my God, I can think of 3 people off the top of my head who would have done 7 days a week with me if I would have been agreeable to working Sundays. No, thank you. I've had people where they do 2 days with me 1 week, then 1 day next week, 2 days, 1 day, 2 day, 1 day, whatever reason that pattern worked for them. But if we were to just break this down in simplest terms, you'll have 1 day a week, 2 day a week, 3 a day a week, and most of your people will do 1 day to 2 days a week. You'll be fortunate to have some people who do 3 days a week, and this might be even less than 1%, will do 5 days a week. So if we break this out and we take a look here, and I want to just pause for 1 second. If you do the math on this, you got right here is 75% of your business will be 1 day or 2 days a week, right? Then you get to, if you're lucky enough to have a couple 3 day a weekers, you got 92 of your business will be comprised of these. You'll have maybe 1%, maybe 2% here. But of these clients, excuse me, if I can get it out, you can move some of them into group personal training. So if you're able to get 10% of your people out of your 100% that you have up here, your 1 day a weekers or 2 day a weekers, to do some personal training, in essence, what you've done is given yourself a raise. If somebody has 1 day a week and you're able to put them into a second session, but it's a group training session, and you get 10% of your people to do that, we know from our previous presentation, you go from making 32 to 30 whatever dollars per hour to making $60 per hour. You've now given yourself a raise. So what I'm trying to present here is, out of your 100% client base that might be 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 days per week, if you can move 10% of that into group training, you're going to be giving yourself an increase of income. So just be aware of that as you go ahead and do your programming with your clients and start to book them out. And you can kind of guide them down that path if you're able to make those connections with your clients. So now here's the thing. When you look at a personal training team generating somewhere between 50 grand, maybe 60 grand a month, this might break out to like 15 trainers. And when you look at this, it's not distributed evenly. So your top people, and I can tell you, like, there was a point in my career where I did 40 hours per week, and I was an outlier in my club, and I was an outlier in the company. I was like number 1 in revenue generated for the entire company for a pretty long stretch, and I was very fortunate, et cetera. And there's a number of reasons why that came about. But the long and short of it is that's a rarity. And so what I want to get across to you is your normal session will probably look a lot like what I talked about in another presentation, where you'll have some personal training, some group exercise. You might have some group training in there. You might have some hours where you're working on the floor to get to your full time to get benefits. So out of a team of 15 personal trainers, you'll have 1, perhaps 2, that'll be doing 30 hours a week. And then from there, it kind of slides off, where if a person is doing 20 hours a week, they'll probably do like 2 group X classes, maybe some floor hours to get to the 30 hours full time to have benefits. And then thereafter, you got to think of this in terms of what it takes to get a couple more clients to get from 15 hours in a week of personal training up to 30. It's going to take a big effort. And even going from 20 to 30 takes a big effort. So as you break this out, you can kind of see graphically what happens here. If you want to call it kurtosis, if you're into talking about statistics, but there's a skewness to this, right? So your trainer number 1 and 2 are your full-time people, and they are working 30 to 35 hours, and thereafter it drops off pretty precipitously. And then you have a number of full-time people who come in, they're after work or they're before work, they train their people, they get a couple extra bucks, and off they go. And it's a wonderful part-time gig, don't get me wrong, those people are great, and I've had many people I've worked with who have just been phenomenal trainers, who were accountants, who were buyers for Neiman Marcus, for example, in retail. So as you look at this, And you start to do the math on 32 sessions, okay, 32 per week gives me 128 per month, and then that's the revenue generated for that trainer. And you can start doing the math on this in terms of how much revenue each person breaks out. But this is a very typical distribution, and this is a very typical representation of that distribution. So understand that as you go in and work, you'll grind through this to get up here to this. And it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of luck. You got to be in the right place, right time, pick up some clients from other people. But what this leads me to is this. When you guys go into an interview, and I talked about this in class, if you get across from somebody at the table and it's a personal training director or a GM, and you start asking these kinds of questions, okay, so how many members does this facility have? Okay, great. Of those members, how many are active? I mean, are we talking out of these 3,000 people, you have what, 1,500, 2,000 active members between all your services? Okay, so then of those active members, what's the penetration rate of personal training? Like how many people actually do personal training? And at this point, they probably won't have a number for you, but somebody who's good and manages the business well, they will have that number. Or if they don't want to, they'll just kind of acquiesce and say, you know what, I really don't know at this time, I can get that for you. And then you got to call them out on it and say, well, just give me a rough idea, because otherwise they'll blow you off. So then it becomes, okay, how does the facility quantify personal training penetration rate, right? Do you count it out in terms of like how many dollars per swipe at the front desk, meaning swipe how many people check in, like you saw 1,100 people on a Monday. How many dollars of personal training per day per swipe, because you know that you're going to have a variability in the number of people who check in. And so as a result of that variability of people checking in, you know there's a relationship between the number of people who check in and the amount of personal training that's brought in. Or is it based on number of sessions that are booked versus the total number of members? Ask them for that metric and see if they have it. See if they manage their business. All right, cool. So then you're telling me with personal training, I mean, how many members are actually active in personal training? And then you can start to come up with a penetration rate. Is it 10%? Is it 7%? Is it 5%? And then this is where it becomes important as you start to generate your business. It becomes, okay, what percentage of the clients that you have who are active in here, right? So where you're telling me there's 250 to 300 members who do personal training, how many of those are active? How many of those do training and have current training packages? And then how many of those have stale sessions? And usually you'll be met with probably some dead air there. But when you look at that and you go, okay, if you have out of those 250 to 300 people, and you have a number of dead or stale sessions sitting there and nobody's contacted them, do you have an active calling program? I mean, if I'm hired in, that's a great way for me to generate my business, and really you don't have to hand me anything new. And that's an easy phone call for me to make. So quite frankly, I think one of the value adds is if you were to hire me in, I am very well aware of this as a process to be able to generate my own business. I appreciate any help I can get, believe me, but I'm very keen on making these phone calls to reach out to people who have sessions just sitting there, and I can go ahead and talk them through how to get back in and get back on track, and we can go ahead and capture that revenue. I'm going to tell you, you sit across the table from somebody and you say that to them and ask those kinds of questions. Oh, I can tell you what I would do. I'd ask somebody to go give me another cup of coffee so we can sit there and talk a little bit longer, because those are the kind of questions you have where it tells me if I'm interviewing you, you have a good handle on the business component of this, not just personal training, the actual skills of counting reps and knowing exercises and how to implement, but being able to manage your business and how to manage your business within the context of the overall business of the facility. So don't be afraid to ask these kinds of questions when you're in an interview. And don't be surprised if they don't have answers to some of them, because some facilities and some of the people in those facilities just won't have a grasp of the business concept that operates behind the scenes. All right, guys, punching out. You guys have a good one. Catch you later. Bye.